Hi, and welcome to the 3AG data series for CPA members. These are interesting times for finance and accounting professionals. More than ever, CEOs and operations leaders are looking to their mathematically gifted colleagues for guidance and insights. And that guidance is moving beyond just dollars and cents. It's moving into a broader company-wide data mandate. Today, almost a third of CFOs are responsible for their company's digital strategy. This means not just looking for new sources of data, it means being handed the keys to the existing data systems, and of course, reporting and analytics. A heavy burden, to say the least. Daunting? Yes. Rewarding? Absolutely. As the old saying goes, nothing worth having comes easy. If you've been given responsibility for managing your company's data, or parts of it, you should be excited with upcoming glories and accolades you will receive for a job well done, particularly after you finish watching this series. In this video, we are going to take you through your first 90 days as head of data, or whatever you want to call it. We are going to identify key steps to take, major pitfalls to avoid, and best practices to follow as you navigate your new role. More specifically, we'll be walking you through the following steps: identifying and understanding your data environment, clarifying your company's data goals, connecting the dots between the company's business goals and operational goals, determining key allies, and determining where your company falls on the data maturity spectrum. Let's get started. We want to make strategic moves to deliver outcomes. This means looking where we can have the most impact. Typically, this will involve being able to do things faster, with less effort, more accurately, more available to a broader audience, or with insights that we couldn't get without advanced techniques. Faster means being faster to do something from scratch, like ad hoc analysis. Faster to do the same thing repeatedly. Less effort. This refers to the amount of time that your team or external contractors put into building a report or other activities. Labor hours are probably the #1 effort that people will do, but for more advanced companies doing machine learning and AI, computing power also comes into the calculation. The number of server hours, cloud service tiers, etc. If you've made it to the point where you're trying to minimize your computing effort, you're quite far along the journey. More accurately, there are a lot of mistakes that people make when manually entering data and formulas. Think about a large Excel file packed with pivot tables, macros if you're really old school, or other features. Think about how many steps it takes to do updates, like adding a new data field, row, or column. Every step you take introduces an opportunity for error. Here's the interesting thing about errors. When scientists make them in the lab, they need to assume the worst case. In fact, they need to assume that at every single step, every single measurement introduces an error. The error is cumulative and not in a good way. Think compound interest here. This can add up. If you have a process where people need to enter data or make manual adjustments, and there's a chance of introducing an error at every manual step, the errors will grow. Finance people pride themselves on process and accuracy, so it can be unnerving to realize how inaccurate your analysis is, just because of the fact that you did the analysis. So finding ways to automate your data entry and data analysis process is critical. A broader audience should be self-explanatory. One of the biggest challenges of reporting and uncovering insights is communicating them to the right people. Being the smartest person in the company with brilliant insights means absolutely nothing if no one knows what you've uncovered. And finally, if you're not ultimately using analytics to uncover hidden insights unavailable to the naked eye, you're not doing it right. Now let's really get started. Unless your company has kept records using stone tablets, there's a good possibility that your existing data will be tucked away in accounting systems, ERPs, inventory management systems, and of course, Excel spreadsheets. So like any good forensic agent, you will need to find out not only where these data sources are, but you also need to find out what is inside of them. Much of that work will be done in the first few weeks, if not months, where you will have to sit down with stakeholders and users to compile a comprehensive list of all such sources. It will also help to understand the frequency of its use, the relative importance, and the number of users of this data, both editors as well as consumers. What is the company hoping to accomplish by focusing on building a data strategy? Don't assume that what you think the company wants is what the company wants. Obviously, the CEO's opinion will matter greatly here, but other key stakeholders themselves might have a different idea in mind. Big data, machine learning, artificial intelligence, these are all hot topics with lots of articles and how-to guides everywhere on the internet. So, everyone in your organization is bound to have an opinion on these matters. Some people will have modest ambitions, like slightly better reporting. Others will be looking to build fully autonomous who's-its. And some people will think that change is just not for the better. Your job at this point is to identify the goals and desires of the people who matter, while combining them into a single unified set of goals. Nobody said that this would be easy. Again, setting aside time for stakeholder interviews will be mandatory in order to achieve any level of success. Plan for at least 2 weeks to foster meaningful discussions. Obviously, this process can be incorporated with the previous step. Hopefully you're not rolling your eyes when we mention this, but it's still critically important to remember that the whole point of developing data tools and reporting is to help the company achieve its broader financial and operational goals. Make sure that you cross-reference these goals against the previously cataloged data goals. Identifying misalignment early on is far more useful and less costly than finding a mismatch later. Plus, when other stakeholders see how a particular data tactic is actually aligned with their goals, they'll be more willing to support the effort. As for data projects that don't align with business goals, ask yourself why this is the case. Such initiatives don't necessarily need to be scrapped. They might be part of a broader theme that your leadership has not kept up on. Today, we would laugh about it if someone was trying to restrict mobile access to email. But would you or your boss have felt the same 20 years ago? There is always merit to investigating and even trying out some of the crazy and wild ideas, especially in a rapidly changing environment like data management. Just because you were given the job of building out a data strategy doesn't mean that everyone in the company agrees that one is required, or if they agree, they might not believe that anything slightly beyond the status quo is warranted. Understanding the lay of the land is critical. Who wants to see the company transform? What do they stand to gain if this transformation is successful? What about those who might see digital transformation efforts as a threat to their job? Data entry roles or departments with lots of people, i.e. empires, will be resistant to efforts that might reduce headcount. The same might be said to be true for people working traditional finance roles. Think about the heroic efforts required to do analysis or even close out the quarter. Now think about how many people would be required to do the same job if so much time wasn't spent pulling data from the ERP, debugging accounts that don't balance, etc. Because of their distance from day-to-day activities, senior leaders will most certainly have enough perspective to be allies, especially if they benefit directly from improved efficiency or output from these data projects. But don't overlook working level advocates. Many people who suffer from inefficiency or who are overwhelmed by the amount of manual data entry and manipulation will be more than happy to find a way to get rid of that busy work that fills up their week. Once you've identified your data strategy advocates, do everything you can to win them over. Make sure that their business goals, their data goals, and your data strategy all align, or at least prioritize this alignment over other goals. Keep them well informed of your progress and recruit them to sell your strategic goals to their peers and subordinates. Identifying your data sources and data aspirations were important exercises, but what really helps to ground things is to benchmark against best practices. Not surprisingly, many other companies before you have gone through this process. Arguably, if they have a data strategy, then they are still going through this process, albeit at a higher level. The data analytics maturity model provides a framework for companies to understand exactly where they are in a typical data transformation journey. Companies that start in the descriptive stage generally are doing basic reporting with minimal management. This is where you'll find lots of spreadsheet work going on. The reports generally show what has happened and arguably are just graphic representations of data, like a chart. When organizations have managed to organize and centralize their data, they can advance to the diagnostic stage. Progressing to this stage means that the company has enough horsepower to go beyond the what and to the why, the underlying causes behind observed results and behavior. Techniques go beyond basic charting into meatier statistics with regression analysis and exception tracking. But knowing the what and the why are the statistician's version of being a historian. Companies that transcend this will find themselves in the predictive stage, where they apply data models to make educated guesses about the future. Here we see optimization, advanced scenario planning, and predictive models used to determine what will happen when similar conditions are observed in the future. Nirvana is achieved in the prescriptive phase. This is where we can apply artificial intelligence and machine learning to real-time data streams. Think of things like self-driving cars. This stage is called prescriptive because we are finally at the point where the data is literally in the driver's seat, advising us what we should be doing. A few notes. 1, crawl before you walk and walk before you run. Many companies make the mistake of jumping into advanced analytics, machine learning, and AI use cases before they've even tackled the basics. While it's not impossible to achieve success, it's highly unlikely. At the very least, you'll miss out on the lowest hanging fruit. 2, at each stage, you are extracting more insight from your data. Basic reporting is, at its most basic, just drawing numbers into graphs. But prescriptive analytics is having your data give you its opinion on what you should do. 3, data management is the first step. Just like being a kid, you have to eat your vegetables before you get to have dessert. Companies that frame their in-year, 2-year, and 5-year plan using this template are in a strong position to turn their data into a strategic advantage. We hope that you have found this introductory video helpful in terms of knowing what is required to have a solid foundation for success. The disciplines of data science, data engineering, and advanced analytics are rich and full of a large number of topics. As financial professionals, you have a critical advantage. You generally have access to the goods, including finance data systems, HR data systems, ERPs, etc. Quite possibly, no other team in the organization can move faster than yours in making improvements to data infrastructure. In most organizations, you are also the nexus for reporting and financial insights. Improving on your past success in this area will not be a cakewalk. However, it will set up the company for great things. As with major projects, you will rely on support and expertise from colleagues outside of your department, as well as within. Don't forget that operational and business knowledge will be just as important on your technical journey. You may have noticed that this video did not focus on technical details. This was by design. You will likely be working with technical experts, but to have detailed knowledge on things like SQL queries and advanced programming techniques is well beyond the scope of any one short video series. Knowing how to work with technical experts to achieve business goals, however, is something just as valuable for your organization. In the upcoming videos in this series, we'll be digging deeper into some more advanced topics. Stay tuned.